The galaxy stretched endlessly, a tapestry of stars and planets woven with the threads of countless civilizations. Each species that called it home had carved out its own place, evolving uniquely, shaped by the environments that birthed them and the trials that tested their survival. From gaseous beings thriving in the upper atmospheres of Jovian giants to crystalline life forms that resonated in perfect harmony on barren, icy worlds, the diversity was boundless. Among the stars, the Hulari were known for their graceful fluidity, their translucent, jelly-like forms adapting seamlessly to environments others deemed inhospitable. They spoke not with words but through bioluminescent displays, their thoughts cascading across their bodies in bursts of light and color. The Gren, in contrast, were a race of towering, armored bipeds whose guttural roars and precise gestures conveyed a complex language. They valued strength and honor above all, seeing existence as a battlefield where survival was the ultimate test. Then there were the Kelsar, whose advanced intellects and technological prowess made them one of the most influential species in the galaxy. Their crystalline brains pulsed with energy, and their understanding of quantum mechanics surpassed all others. They had mapped the folds of the galaxy, charting hyperspace lanes that connected even the most remote star systems. Yet for all their knowledge, they were often blind to the intricacies of the less advanced species they encountered. Amid this cosmic diversity, misunderstandings were inevitable. The Gran often found the Hulari incomprehensibly fragile, their light-based language dismissed as frivolous theatrics. The Hulari, in turn, saw the Gren's aggressive tendencies as barbaric and feared their towering forms. The Kelsar, despite their intelligence, struggled to comprehend species that lacked their technological advancement, often dismissing them as primitive. One such misunderstanding had nearly plunged the galaxy into chaos. On the lush, forested moon of Eutheris, the Gran had arrived in search of resources, their warships hovering ominously above the verdant canopy. The Hulari, who had long considered Eutheris a sacred retreat, reacted with alarm. Their light signals, a desperate plea for peace, were misinterpreted by the Gran as a declaration of war. The Kelsar, observing from afar, debated intervening. Their councils argued for days, their crystalline matrices calculating probabilities and outcomes. Eventually, a single emissary was dispatched to Kelsar known as Velier, whose understanding of cultural nuances was deemed sufficient to mediate the crisis. Velier's arrival was met with skepticism. The Gren saw the Kelsar as detached and arrogant, while the Hulari doubted their ability to comprehend the sacred importance of Eutheris. But Velier had prepared, studying the histories and customs of both species. Their first act was to create a shared language, a combination of light patterns and deep, resonant sounds that both species could understand. It was not an easy task. The Gren, proud and stubborn, resisted any suggestion that their language was insufficient. The Hulari, delicate and emotional, feared losing the purity of their bioluminescent communication. But Velier persisted, demonstrating that understanding required compromise and effort. Slowly, the two species began to communicate. The Gren learned to interpret the Hulari's light displays, seeing not weakness but beauty in their fluid forms. The Hulari came to respect the Gren's strength, recognizing the discipline and resilience that underpinned their culture. Velier facilitated dialogues, guiding both sides to acknowledge their shared connection to Eutheris and its ecosystems. The resolution of the Eutheris conflict became a turning point. Other species, inspired by the efforts of the Kelsar emissary, began to explore ways to bridge their own divides. Diplomatic councils formed, where representatives of species that once viewed each other with suspicion now shared ideas and knowledge. Yet for all its progress, the galaxy remained a place of infinite complexity. Every new encounter brought fresh challenges, as species with vastly different values and experiences tried to coexist. The Kelsar, despite their role as mediators, often found themselves struggling to keep pace with the ever-changing dynamics of interstellar relations. There were moments of tension when diplomacy failed, when misunderstandings erupted into violence and centuries of progress seemed on the verge of unraveling. But there were also moments of profound connection, when individuals from different species reached out to one another, defying the prejudices of their societies to forge bonds of friendship and understanding. In the end, the galaxy's vastness was both its greatest challenge and its greatest strength. The sheer diversity of life ensured that no single perspective could dominate, that every culture and society brought something unique to the cosmic tapestry. It was a universe of understanding, not because differences were erased, but because they were embraced, celebrated, and woven together in a fragile but enduring harmony. As the stars continued to burn in the endless night, they bore witness to the countless stories of connection and conflict, of triumph and tragedy. And though the path was never easy, it was this endless journey of understanding that defined the galaxy and gave it life. Amid the vast tapestry of life on Earth, humanity has always carried a unique and often underestimated trait: the ability to feel deeply for others. Empathy, the capacity to step into another's shoes and see the world through their eyes, has shaped countless moments in human history. It is not a force of nature, like the winds or the tides, but something quieter, something that resides in the heart of every person. Yet, its influence is immense, altering the course of conflicts, forging alliances, and sparking revolutions of thought and action. In the early days of human civilization, tribes survived by working together, their collective strength greater than the sum of individuals. Empathy emerged as a survival tool, helping them anticipate the needs of others and form bonds that ensured mutual protection. A hunter shared his kill not out of obligation, but because he could imagine hunger gnawing at his neighbor's stomach. A mother took in a child who was not her own because she felt the pain of a child left untended. These small acts of understanding laid the foundation for communities to thrive. As societies grew, empathy evolved beyond mere survival. It became the force behind some of the most transformative moments in history. When the Buddha walked among the suffering, renouncing his privilege to seek a path to enlightenment, it was empathy that drove him to act. When Florence Nightingale tended to wounded soldiers in the dim light of the Crimean War, she did so because she could not ignore their pain. And when Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and spoke of his dream, he called upon an entire nation to empathize with those whose voices had long been silenced. Empathy has always been humanity's secret weapon in bridging divides that seemed insurmountable. History is rife with examples of people overcoming barriers of race, religion, and culture to connect with one another. During the Christmas truce of 1914, soldiers from opposing sides of World War I laid down their weapons, crossed no man's land, and shared moments of humanity amidst the chaos of war. They sang songs, exchanged gifts, and even played games, reminded in those fleeting hours that they were more alike than different. Though the truce was brief, its memory endured, a testament to the power of empathy to transcend even the most entrenched divides. Humanity's empathetic nature also manifests in its stories. From ancient myths to modern literature, the tales we tell often center on the ability to connect with others. These stories invite readers to inhabit other lives, to feel their struggles, joys, and sorrows. They have shaped minds, taught lessons, and ignited movements. Harriet Beecher Stow's Uncle Tom's Cabin awakened the conscience of a nation, and Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings gave voice to pain and resilience. Stories allow empathy to ripple outward, touching countless lives. The potential of empathy extends beyond Earth's borders. If humanity were to encounter intelligent life among the stars, empathy might be our greatest strength in bridging the inevitable chasm of difference. Unlike intelligence, which could lead to competition, or technology, which might inspire fear, empathy has the power to create understanding. It could allow us to see not just alien forms, but the sentient beings within, with desires, fears, and dreams of their own. Imagining such encounters is not far-fetched. Humanity's ability to empathize extends even to the non-human creatures of our planet. Conservationists dedicate their lives to saving species on the brink of extinction because they feel a kinship with creatures who cannot advocate for themselves. Researchers studying animal behavior have uncovered startling truths about the emotional lives of dolphins, elephants, and even octopuses. These discoveries are driven by the same empathetic impulse, the desire to connect, to understand, and to care. Yet empathy is not without its challenges. It is a fragile trait, easily overshadowed by fear, prejudice, and ignorance. It requires effort, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and acknowledge our own biases. But when cultivated, empathy has the power to transform even the darkest situations. One striking example lies in post-apartheid South Africa. After decades of systemic oppression, the country could have descended into chaos and retribution. Instead, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission sought to foster understanding and healing. Through the testimony of victims and perpetrators, the nation confronted its wounds. It was not an easy process, but it was a deeply empathetic one, rooted in the belief that understanding could pave the way for a more just future. In the modern world, empathy continues to drive progress. Movements advocating for climate action, gender equality, and social justice are fueled by the ability to empathize with others, to see the interconnectedness of humanity's struggles. Technology, often seen as cold and impersonal, has also become a tool for empathy. Social media and virtual reality offer glimpses into lives vastly different from our own, breaking down barriers and fostering a global sense of community. The essence of empathy lies in its universality. It is not bound by geography, culture, or language. It is as present in a child sharing their lunch with a hungry friend as it is in global efforts to provide aid to those suffering from natural disasters. Empathy allows humanity to connect, to care, and to create a future where differences are not feared but celebrated. As the stars continue to beckon, humanity's capacity for empathy may prove to be its most vital trait. In a universe that seems vast and indifferent, empathy reminds us of our shared humanity and our responsibility to one another. It is a quiet, persistent force that has shaped history and will continue to shape the destiny of not just humanity, but perhaps any species fortunate enough to encounter it. The capacity to connect with others, to step into their lives and feel their joys, sorrows, and struggles is one of humanity's most profound traits. Empathy, this ability to understand and share the feelings of another, has been an invisible thread weaving humanity's collective history. It is not bound by culture, language, or borders, but rather it is a universal trait deeply embedded in human nature. This remarkable quality has allowed humans to bridge differences, resolve conflicts, and imagine a world where understanding triumphs over division. In the earliest days of human existence, empathy was not just a moral value but a practical necessity. Small communities and tribes depended on cooperation for survival, and empathy was the tool that enabled this. A hunter shared food with someone injured, not just out of duty, but because he could feel their pain and hunger as his own. Early societies cared for the elderly and sick because they understood the vulnerability that came with age or illness. This capacity to connect emotionally became the foundation for the development of complex social structures and cultures. As humanity progressed, empathy began to manifest in ways that transcended survival. Throughout history, individuals and movements have demonstrated its transformative power. During the darkest chapters of human history, it was empathy that often served as the beacon of hope. Consider the Underground Railroad, a network of individuals risking their lives to help enslaved people escape to freedom. These acts of courage were driven by an ability to see the humanity in others, to feel their suffering and be moved to action. In the 20th century, Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence was rooted in empathy. By urging his followers to understand the perspectives of their oppressors, Gandhi sought to dismantle colonial rule without hatred or violence. His movement inspired others, proving that empathy could be a force for political and social change. Similarly, Martin Luther King Jr., deeply influenced by Gandhi, appealed to the conscience of a divided nation by calling for understanding and justice. His words moved millions because they were grounded in a profound empathy for both the oppressed and the oppressors, reminding everyone of their shared humanity. Beyond the scale of nations and movements, empathy has shaped countless individual stories. During World War II, amidst the widespread horrors, moments of humanity shone through. In one instance, a German soldier risked his life to help a young Jewish boy escape a concentration camp. This act, though small in the grand scheme of war, was a testament to the power of empathy to transcend indoctrination and fear. Such stories remind us that even in the darkest times, the ability to connect emotionally can create ripples of hope. In more recent history, empathy has driven humanitarian efforts on a global scale. When disasters strike, whether earthquakes, famines, or pandemics, people from all over the world rally together to provide aid. This willingness to help those we have never met, often in faraway places, is a powerful example of humanity's unique ability to empathize. Images of children affected by war or families displaced by natural disasters evoke a shared sense of responsibility, transcending borders and cultures. Empathy is not limited to human interactions, it extends to the natural world. Conservation efforts to protect endangered species are driven by a deep connection to other forms of life. Humanity's understanding of animals' capacity to feel pain and emotion has led to movements advocating for their rights and welfare. The bond people share with their pets, the efforts to rescue whales stranded on shores, or the campaigns to save rainforests all stem from the same empathetic impulse, the recognition of life's inherent value, regardless of its form. This unique human trait has profound implications for the future, particularly as humanity looks beyond its home planet. The possibility of encountering intelligent life in the galaxy brings with it both excitement and uncertainty. Such encounters will almost certainly reveal beings with ways of thinking, living, and communicating vastly different from our own. Empathy could serve as the bridge across these divides, enabling humans to connect with species whose experiences and perspectives might be entirely alien. It would require the ability to look beyond surface-level differences and seek the universal truths that bind all sentient life. The potential for empathy to transform interspecies relations is not as far-fetched as it may seem. Humanity has already demonstrated this capacity on Earth in its relationships with animals and ecosystems. The challenge will be to extend this empathy to forms of life that might not resemble anything we have encountered before. Doing so would require humanity to embrace its own diversity first, using the lessons learned from bridging divides on Earth as a foundation for understanding others among the stars. However, empathy is not without its challenges. It is a skill that requires effort and intentionality. Fear, prejudice, and ignorance can dull its effect, creating barriers where bridges are needed. Empathy also demands vulnerability, the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and acknowledge one's own biases. Yet, history shows that when nurtured, empathy has the power to reshape societies and inspire profound change. In the modern era, technology has become both a challenge and a tool for fostering empathy. Social media, for instance, has the potential to connect people across the globe, exposing them to perspectives and experiences vastly different from their own. At the same time, it can create echo chambers and fuel divisions, making empathy harder to practice. The choice lies with humanity to use its tools to enhance understanding or to allow them to widen the gaps between us. Empathy, at its core, is what allows humanity to see itself not as isolated individuals, but as a collective bound by shared experiences and dreams. It is the force that moves someone to help a stranger, that drives communities to rebuild after tragedy, and that inspires nations to seek peace. As humanity continues to evolve, empathy remains its most enduring and defining trait. It is both a gift and a responsibility, reminding us that our greatest strength lies not in our differences, but in our ability to understand and care for one another. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless civilizations, each shaped by its own unique history, biology, and environment. To many, This diversity seemed an insurmountable barrier, a source of fear and mistrust. But for humanity, it was an opportunity. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, became humanity's most powerful tool in navigating the complexities of interstellar relations. When the Sol Alliance first encountered the Zollan, a species of insectoid beings with a rigid caste system, the initial reaction was one of unease. The Zollans' hive-like social structure and their method of communication, high-pitched clicks and pheromone trails, seemed alien and incomprehensible. Many humans, unfamiliar with such forms of life, viewed them with suspicion. The Zollan, in turn, saw humans as chaotic and unpredictable, their individualism an affront to the harmony of the hive. Tensions escalated when a human mining vessel unknowingly encroached on a Zollan breeding ground. The Zollan, seeing this as a grave violation, responded aggressively, and a standoff seemed inevitable. But instead of retaliating with force, humanity sent an emissary, Dr. Elena Rivera, a xenopsychologist who had spent her career studying the behaviors of alien species. Armed not with weapons but with a deep understanding of empathy, she approached the Zollan leaders. Dr. Rivera observed the Zollan carefully, mimicking their posture and vocal rhythms to establish a sense of familiarity. Though humans could not perceive pheromones, she studied their patterns and devised a way to emit harmless chemical signals that resonated with the Zollans' communication. Over time, her efforts began to break down the barriers of mistrust. She listened to their grievances, acknowledged their pain, and expressed genuine remorse on behalf of humanity. The Zollan, sensing her sincerity, reciprocated with their own gestures of peace. What could have been the first war between the two species instead became the foundation for a long-standing alliance. Empathy, as Dr. Rivera demonstrated, had the power to overcome even the most deeply ingrained fears and prejudices. It allowed humans to see others not as threats but as beings with their own perspectives, struggles, and desires. This same principle was at play during humanity's encounters with the Alithians, an aquatic species whose culture revolved around communal singing. The Alithians initially refused to engage with humans, perceiving their speech as harsh and discordant. Rather than forcing interaction, humanity responded with creativity. A team of musicians and linguists collaborated to create instruments that could replicate the Alithians' harmonic frequencies. When the first human Alithian symphony resonated across the oceans of their homeworld, the barriers of mistrust dissolved. For the Alithians, it was not just a gesture of goodwill but a profound acknowledgement of their culture's beauty. These stories became legendary examples of empathy in action, but they were not without challenges. Fear and prejudice were deeply rooted instincts, often exacerbated by the unknown. On a distant colony world, humans found themselves sharing a settlement with the Raks, a warlike species known for their territorial aggression. Initial interactions were fraught with tension, as both sides viewed each other with suspicion. Conflicts erupted over resources, and violence seemed inevitable. It was a child, not a diplomat, who changed the course of their relationship. During a particularly heated dispute, a young human boy wandered into Rak's territory, drawn by curiosity. He came across a wounded Rak's warrior struggling to move. While the adults argued, the child, unburdened by fear or prejudice, offered the warrior water and food. The Raks, stunned by the boy's kindness, carried him back to the human settlement, signaling a desire for dialogue. The child's simple act of empathy had succeeded where formal negotiations had failed, proving that understanding could arise even in the most unlikely circumstances. Empathy's importance extended beyond individual encounters. It became the cornerstone of diplomacy and interstellar cooperation. The Galactic Council, a coalition of species working toward peaceful coexistence, often relied on humanity's unique ability to mediate conflicts. When the crystalline beings of the Korath and the gaseous entities of the Fayar clashed over territorial boundaries, it was a human diplomat, Ambassador Rashid Khan, who brokered peace. By carefully studying both species' needs and finding common ground, he helped them draft an agreement that respected their differing forms of existence. These successes were not merely the result of human ingenuity but of a willingness to listen, to understand, and to care. Empathy allowed humanity to bridge divides that logic and technology alone could not. It fostered trust and cooperation, enabling species to see each other not as competitors but as partners. Yet empathy was not a simple solution. It required effort, patience, and vulnerability. It meant confronting one's own biases and being open to perspectives that could challenge deeply held beliefs. There were moments when empathy faltered, when fear and mistrust took hold, leading to setbacks. But humanity persisted, recognizing that the path to understanding was not always smooth but was always worth pursuing. The legacy of empathy was not just in the alliances formed or the conflicts avoided, it was in the relationships built and the lives touched. It was in the Zalin who invited humans to their festivals, the Alithians who shared their songs, and the Raksuks who became steadfast allies. It was in the countless stories of connection and cooperation that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. Empathy was humanity's gift to the stars, a reminder that even in a universe of infinite differences, understanding was possible. It was a quiet but powerful force, shaping a future where species could coexist not in spite of their differences, but because of them. The galaxy in all its vastness is a mosaic of civilizations, each with its own history, culture, and perspective. It is a place of immense diversity, but also one fraught with the potential for conflict. Differences in language, biology, and values often create barriers that seem insurmountable. Yet, time and again, it is empathy, humanity's ability to understand and connect with others, that has proven to be the most powerful force in bridging divides, building trust, and forging alliances that have reshaped the galaxy. When humanity first ventured beyond its solar system, it was not the most advanced species among the stars. Other civilizations had already developed technologies that dwarfed human ingenuity, and their societies had existed for millennia. Yet, what humanity lacked in technological prowess, it made up for with its capacity to empathize. Early encounters with alien civilizations highlighted the strength of this trait. While other species approached newcomers with suspicion or dominance, humanity sought to listen and learn. It was this openness that earned humanity its place among the interstellar community. One of the first and most significant alliances humanity formed was with the Seraph, a nomadic species that had long distrusted other civilizations due to centuries of exploitation. When the Seraph's migratory fleet arrived in a human-controlled star system seeking refuge, tensions ran high. Many feared the Seraph's reputation as scavengers, assuming their presence would lead to conflict. But instead of responding with hostility, humanity extended a hand of friendship. Diplomats spent weeks learning the Seraph's language and customs, and relief efforts were mobilized to provide resources the Seraph desperately needed. This act of compassion shattered the Seraph's expectations, and in time they became one of humanity's closest allies. Together, they forged a pact that laid the groundwork for mutual cooperation and defense. The ripple effects of empathy were felt far beyond individual alliances. As humanity's reputation for understanding spread, it became a sought-after mediator in disputes between other civilizations. When the water-dwelling Orions and the desert-dwelling Croza found themselves locked in a bitter conflict over a disputed star system, humanity was called upon to intervene. The two species, as different as any could be, had little common ground. The Orions thrived in liquid environments and communicated through patterns of bioluminescence, while the Croza, adapted to arid conditions, relied on complex tonal languages. Human mediators, rather than imposing their own solutions, focused on understanding the core needs and fears of each side. They spent months immersed in Orion and Crozan cultures, learning to communicate in ways that respected each species' unique forms of expression. By the time negotiations began, both sides felt seen and heard, and a peaceful resolution was achieved. The disputed star system was transformed into a shared research outpost, where both species worked together to study its unique ecosystem. What could have been a devastating war became a story of unity and cooperation. The effects of empathy extended even further, influencing the broader dynamics of galactic relations. The Galactic Concord, a coalition of civilizations dedicated to peace and prosperity, saw a surge in membership as species previously isolated by mistrust began to embrace the ideals of understanding and collaboration. Trade routes flourished, scientific knowledge was shared more freely, and joint initiatives to address galactic challenges such as resource scarcity and environmental degradation became the norm. Empathy, once seen as a soft skill, was now recognized as a cornerstone of progress. The economic benefits of these changes were undeniable. Open trade and cooperation allowed civilizations to pool resources and expertise, leading to advancements in technology, medicine, and infrastructure. Entire star systems that had once been on the brink of collapse found new life through interstellar partnerships. Prosperity spread, not because of domination or conquest, but because of mutual respect and understanding. But the true impact of empathy went beyond material gains. It reshaped the very fabric of interstellar society. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now shared cultural exchanges, celebrating their differences rather than fearing them. Festivals became interstellar events, where beings from countless worlds gathered to share art, music, and traditions. Schools across the galaxy began teaching empathy as a core value, emphasizing the importance of seeing the universe through another's eyes. It was no longer enough to coexist, the goal was to truly connect. Looking to the future, the potential for empathy to shape the galaxy seemed limitless. Humanity, having proven the power of this trait time and again, became a symbol of hope for what was possible. The idea of a truly interconnected cosmos, where species work together not out of necessity but out of genuine care for one another, began to feel achievable. The challenges were many. Old prejudices and fears were slow to fade, and new conflicts arose as the galaxy continued to evolve. But the foundation of empathy ensured that these challenges could be met not with force, but with understanding. In the grand tapestry of the galaxy, empathy became the thread that held everything together. It turned strangers into allies, enemies into friends, and differences into strengths. It was not always easy. Empathy required effort, patience, and vulnerability. But its rewards were unparalleled. As civilizations across the galaxy embraced this fundamental trait, they discovered that the true measure of greatness was not in power or wealth, but in the ability to understand and care for others. The galaxy was vast, its stars countless, and its civilizations as diverse as the planets they called home. Yet, amidst this endless expanse, it was empathy that united them, creating a future where harmony and connection reigned. The story of the galaxy was not one of conquest or domination, but of understanding, a testament to the power of a simple yet profound human trait that had forever changed the course of the cosmos. In the complexity of our world, filled with countless cultures, perspectives, and experiences, there is one quality that holds the power to bring us closer together: empathy. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, to see the world through their eyes and feel their joys and sorrows as if they were our own. Empathy is not just an abstract concept or a fleeting emotion. It is a skill, a choice, and a commitment to connect with the humanity in others. It has the power to transform not only our personal relationships but also the very fabric of our societies. Empathy begins at home, in our daily interactions with family, friends, and strangers. It is the pause before responding, the effort to listen without judgment, and the courage to step outside our own experiences to imagine someone else's reality. Nurturing empathy within our communities is not a passive process. It requires active engagement. It means teaching children to recognize and respect different emotions, encouraging open and honest communication, and fostering environments where everyone feels heard and valued. Throughout history, acts of empathy have served as turning points, moments when individuals chose understanding over division. In the aftermath of natural disasters, people from all walks of life come together to provide relief, driven by the simple recognition of shared humanity. When civil rights leaders called for justice, they appealed not just to laws but to the moral conscience of society, urging people to see the struggles of others as their own. These examples remind us that empathy is not limited to personal relationships. It is a driving force for collective action and social progress. In our modern, fast-paced world, empathy faces new challenges. Technology, while connecting us in unprecedented ways, can also create barriers. Social media often amplifies division, encouraging quick judgments and polarizing opinions. But it can also be a tool for empathy, offering windows into the lives of people we may never meet. Stories, images, and voices shared online have the power to evoke understanding and compassion. The choice lies in how we use these tools, whether to build walls or bridges. Cultivating empathy in our own lives requires intention. It starts with listening, not just hearing words, but truly understanding the emotions and perspectives behind them. It means setting aside our assumptions and approaching others with curiosity and an open mind. Small acts of kindness, such as offering help to someone in need or simply acknowledging another's struggle, can have profound impacts. Empathy does not require grand gestures. It flourishes in the quiet, everyday moments of connection. The ripple effect of empathy can extend far beyond individual interactions. When communities embrace empathy, they become stronger and more resilient. Schools that prioritize emotional intelligence and conflict resolution see students who are better equipped to navigate differences and collaborate effectively. Workplaces that foster a culture of empathy experience greater cooperation and innovation. Entire cities and nations can benefit from policies rooted in understanding and compassion, addressing social issues with a focus on equity and inclusion. Empathy also has the power to heal divisions. In a world where differences often lead to conflict, empathy can help bridge gaps of race, religion, culture, and ideology. It allows us to see beyond stereotypes and prejudices, to recognize the shared humanity that unites us all. This does not mean ignoring or erasing differences. Rather, it means celebrating them while finding common ground. Empathy teaches us that diversity is not a threat, but a strength. The call to action is simple but profound. Embrace empathy in your own life. Begin with small steps. Practice active listening, seek to understand before responding, and approach others with an open heart. Challenge your own biases and be willing to learn from perspectives different from your own. Remember that empathy is not about agreeing with everyone or condoning harmful behavior. It is about understanding the emotions and motivations behind actions and using that understanding to foster connection and growth. Imagine the impact if empathy became a guiding principle not just for individuals but for entire societies. Conflicts could be approached with a focus on resolution rather than retaliation. Social inequities could be addressed with genuine care for those affected. Environmental challenges could be tackled with a sense of shared responsibility for the planet and future generations. Empathy has the potential to reshape the way we live, govern, and coexist. Looking beyond our world, empathy could even guide humanity's future among the stars. If we ever encounter intelligent life beyond Earth, it will be empathy that enables us to build relationships based on mutual understanding. Just as it has allowed us to bridge divides within our own species, empathy could help us connect with beings who may think, feel, and communicate in ways entirely different from our own. The transformative power of empathy is not an abstract ideal. It is a real, tangible force that each of us can cultivate and use to create positive change. In a world that often feels divided, empathy is the thread that can weave us back together. It reminds us that we are all part of a greater whole, interconnected and interdependent. The call to action is clear. Let empathy guide your choices, your interactions, and your perspective on the world. By choosing to understand and care for one another, we can create communities, societies, and a world where compassion prevails over conflict. Empathy is not just a response to the challenges we face, it is the solution. Together, we can harness its power to build a future where understanding and connection are the foundation of all that we do.